You hear the screeching of an owl, you hear the wind begin to howl. You know there's zombies on the prowl, and it's terror time again. They've got you running through the night. It's terror time again, and you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time.
So now you know how to keep a character alive from the natural world, but what about the unnatural? The hordes shuffling through the streets and alleyways are another beast entirely from what nature demands of you. Well, let's take a look at combat and go over a lot of the intricacies. Now this is primarily focused on your proper zombie settings. This means the default zombies, no sprinters or extra weak shamblers being preset. This will also be based upon the survival difficulty, which is a nice middle ground between Apocalypse's utterly brutal combat and Builder's pushover difficulty. Zomboid's combat is dynamic. The environment is always changing and it can go bad at the drop of a hat. You'll have to pay close attention to the environment at all times or else you risk being snuck up on by zombies that heard your ruckus. Don't draw more attention than you can afford to fight at once. You'll want to stick to small groups, especially when you don't have much combat skills or weaponry. If a zombie approaches you from behind, they have a highly increased chance to pull off a successful attack, including a heightened bite chance. So whatever you do, pay attention to your surroundings. Keep your ears open. They will be your best friend to hear someone sneaking up on you. The biggest skill to learn, however, is when it's time to fold and run. Do not keep fighting in a hopeless situation. That can of beans is not worth dying for. Back off and fight another day. Now there is a vast array of death-dealing instruments to choose from during your romp in a zombie wonderland. But before we dive into that, I'd like to talk about some of the factors that will heavily affect your effectiveness in combat. Exhaustion is one of the biggest killers in combat, especially in a horde situation. The more you fight, the more stamina you'll burn. You'll wear out as you deal with enemies or flee. If you end up taking on too many, you'll hit the first levels of exhaustion. This will weaken your hits, lower your crit chances, and lower your ability to fend off an attack or grab. As you continue fighting, this will only build higher and higher until you're too tired to even run. If you cannot kill them off, then break off the engagement, come back when you're rested. Maybe you'll even get lucky and part of them will have split off. If you don't and choose to continue fighting as your energy drains, you risk being dragged down by the horde and ripped limb from limb, and having a sudden desire to eat people yourself. This also applies to fleeing though. Take too long to decide to cut your losses, and you'll find your options for breaking off the engagement are also cut down. You'll struggle or even fail to scale tall fences. You'll slow down. You might not even be able to muster the energy to move at more than a snail's pace as the horde closes in around you. There are a few ways to counter this though. Finding a safe place to rest or eating an herb known as ginseng, which will restore your endurance and get you back into the fight quicker. That tingling down your neck, the spike in your heart rate, that unease creeping in, that'll get to you. And as the odds stack higher, it'll escalate more and more, causing your swings to become erratic, your shoves to get wilder. You'll become less effective with the strikes that do land. As the number of zombies increases, the rate in which you panic increases. This is further exacerbated by the exhaustion and fatigue you've no doubt started building up. So how do you deal with panic? Well, for one, you can take a trait like Brave, which reduces the rate that panic builds. You could also take the Veteran profession, which comes with the Desensitized trait, completely disabling panic, except in the most ridiculous of situations. I'm talking Maul of the Dead style situations. If you didn't take one of these character traits, then the two best ways to deal with panic is either back off the situation and let your character recover. If you absolutely cannot back away or back down, then your only option left is to pop some beta blockers. Beta blockers will reduce panic, making it so you can fight more effectively until they wear off, hopefully giving you the edge you need to thin their numbers. Ah, tiredness. The bane of parents and office workers alike. Exhaustive actions like fighting, exercise, sprinting, and scaling fences will increase fatigue as well as exhaustion. Much like the other two factors, they'll weaken you in the same ways. Overall, your combat potential goes way down, and combined with the others, you'll struggle against ones and twos, let alone a whole pack. Fatigue can be fought in a variety of ways. You can take traits like Wakeful, which reduces the overall amount of sleep you need, getting you back in the fight quicker. Night Owl from the security guard profession also reduces the amount of rest required. Now, there are also several ways in-game that can restore fatigue. You can sleep, which is the most obvious and thorough, but time-consuming way. Short-term relief can come from sweet, sweet caffeine. Either brew up a cup of tea or coffee beforehand, and you'll be ready to fight for longer. You can also pop some sweet, sweet Flintstone vitamins to bolster your fatigue, but you'll have to eat a large amount on them depending on how tired you are. It'll have to yabba dabba do though. Now let's look at the combat related skills, starting from the top of the list and working our way down. We'll start with axes. Axes are a mainstay of Zomboid. Been around for a long time and always a reliable tool. They come in a variety of forms, but they're all fairly effective with their own trade-offs. Now for most categories, I won't list every single weapon because there's far too many to count. But axes only have 4 types in game, so I could go a bit more in depth. Easily found at construction sites, storage units and warehouses, hardware cubbies in homes, or even embedded in zombies roaming the streets. The hand axe is your most likely find early on, and is a small but reliable tool, offering a moderate amount of damage for a small size and ease of use any character can make good use of. Useful hacking off limbs from trees or zombies, this little tool will help you immensely. The stone axe is the next up on the chopping block. A weak weapon with low durability, but easily crafted from scraps you find in the woods. This makes for a last resort weapon, or a good tool for cutting trees and saving the durability on your better axes for the undead. The wood axe is large, heavy, and hits hard as well, able to one-shot several zombies at once, with only a few points of axe skill, but due to its heft, it will drain your stamina quickly. This I don't recommend for long-term engagements, but it's great for sweeping small groups. And the final axe is the classic and original fire axe, the mainstay tool, the gold standard of Zomboid weaponry. Strong damage, not too severe drain on your stamina, able to crush multiple zombies at once. There's just not a lot to hate about the axe. If you can, it never hurts to keep one on standby. Long blunt. No, back off, Snoop. This isn't your Mary Jane. Back, you beast. Now that that's handled, let's get back to the topic at hand. Long blunt is your hit things hard from a distance weapon. You've got your bats, crowbars, shovels, sledgehammers, anything that could smack something over the head with a little bit of distance. Now long blunt weapons tend to usually be hard hitting weapons, but at the cost of weight and stamina burn. The sledgehammer used to be one of the most devastating weapons in the game, able to slaughter hordes. It could still slaughter, but it costs an extreme amount of stamina to use for any length of time. Things like the baseball bat will be your go-to in this regard. Not so heavy, hits pretty hard, able to have nails stuck in it for extra damage, an overall reliable weapon and a reliable set of weapons as long as you keep the limitations in mind. Short blunt is most likely one of the first weapons you'll find in the entire game. From a humble and totally useless rolling pin, to the reliable getting sued by PUBG pan, to the reliable lead pipe. This is going to be your most common weapon stats, and honestly a good choice to set your character build around. Getting an XP multiplier on a weapon skill set of the most common tools of the trade is just smart. Starting with an advantage in that weapon and only building up that advantage even faster can definitely save your ass. Long Blade is an uncommon weapon type and skill type to level up in general. There just isn't very many long blades in the game. The only ones I could think of is the machete and katana, both of which are pretty damn uncommon to find, and in the case of the katana can degrade in quality pretty quickly, and it's also one of the skills that doesn't have a trait or an XP multiplier that you can get on the character build. And the trade-off there is they also hit pretty damn hard though. They'll slay zombies with ease. If you could get a hold of one, then utilize it well. Short Blade, however, contrasting its bigger brother, is a fairly common weapon type. From the humble screwdriver and kitchen knife to the classic hunting knife, these weapons excel in stealth gameplay, sneaking up and killing all small stragglers with their ability to perform an instant kill critical. But the downside of this is it also has a fairly long animation, which if you're not careful will result in you getting caught with your pants down and receiving that zombie's longing embrace. The next weapon type is the spear. Easily crafted, readily found in survivor homes, or even using a farmer's pitchfork, and able to be upgraded by sticking pointy things on the end of them. The spear is one of the most reliable weapons out there, up there with the short blunt and axes. The spear also has instant kill animations the same as the knife, but with the added range of a spear making it much more practical to deal with groups. Even able to instant kill several at once if you're lucky. If you ever fall on hard times and have to make a living off in the woods with foraging, then hope for a knife of any type and carve a spear from a plank or a tree branch and get impaling. There's no need to spear the Reaper. The final weapon category is going to be firearms. I'm also combining aiming and reloading together here for the simple reason they go completely hand in hand. You'll have to reload to fire your gun. Now reloading can be somewhat cheesed for XP. You can load and unload a magazine over and over again for XP. It's tedious, but having that faster reload speed in the heat of the moment may just save your life. Aiming is also self-explanatory. Point your gun at something, wait for the outline to turn green, and hope it dies. This is the stat where panic is the most obvious. Under high panic, you'll miss almost every gunshot. And the most reliable weapon, in my opinion, is the JS-2000 shotgun. 6 shells of pump action glory. Extremely loud, and will draw every zombie in the city. But this can actually be a benefit too. I personally like to use the shotgun due to its spread, giving it a high hit chance and kill rate. This means your aim skill also goes up much faster than with almost any other weapon. Now the shotgun, like I said, has other uses. Using it, you can draw hordes in, and once you've got them all together, hit those fuckers with a Molotov. Set them all on fire, back off, and let the entire horde burn itself out. This will make it much easier to take a large area of land for yourself. The handguns range in both accuracy and damage, but require higher skill to really effectively use. And the same is true of rifles, though rifles have a higher effective range, especially with a scope. Now this next category is related to combat, that being maintenance. Your weapons will eventually break. To counter this, you'll need to level your maintenance skill. The higher your skill, the less likely your weapon durability points will deplete on each hit. You gain XP for this every time your weapon successfully doesn't deplete. This is one thing I recommend you always take a point or two in, for the fact that no matter what weapon choice you make, having it last longer is always a good thing, especially if it's a rare weapon. That's why for me, personally, I like to take the handy trait, because it gives you 1 point of maintenance and 1 point of carpentry, both skills that most characters will need to last the long term. The last skill, and while not strictly a combat skill, is tied to combat. That being first aid. You will get hurt eventually, be it a laceration or a scratch. Maybe a zombie got a bit too close and clawed you, or maybe you jumped through a broken window and got caught up, or dived out of a second floor window and broke your leg, but managed to escape your foes. No matter how you got hurt, you're gonna have to patch yourself up. For this you'll need 2 things. Medical skill and supplies. Medical skill could be acquired via patching wounds, either on yourself or on other players, and supplies will need to be scavenged from bathrooms, medical centers, or survivor stashes. As you level your ability to treat wounds, it will become more effective. You'll heal faster, you'll identify infections and make better bandages. You could craft poultices that aid a wound in healing faster. First aid can be a key part to whether you live or die, both in game and real life. One word of warning, however, bites are always fatal. If you become bitten by a zombie, then grab a bottle of bleach, pick up your shotgun or your strongest melee and go out swinging. You might as well take some of the rotten bastards with you to hell. I hope you enjoyed my breakdown of combat, and I hope it helps you get a better understanding of how it all works. This has been Court. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.